we're ready.
Okay. I'd like to go ahead and call the Warrenton Board of Aldermen meeting for Tuesday, November 17th, 2020 to order. Once again, we are going to be coming in contact with you through Zoom. If you'd like to join it by opening the internet and browser and entering in the https://zoom.us/j/9562748-536 in the address bar, or on your phone by dialing 1-312-626-6799 with a meeting ID of 956-274-8536. The annex building will be open to the public for the public hearing section of the meeting, and to listen to the meeting via Zoom. Mask and social distancing will be required. With that, we'll go ahead and, I guess I should say the city apologizes for any inconvenience the meeting and format change may pose to an individual, but it is extremely important that extra measures be taken to protect employees, residents, and elected officials during this challenging time. With that, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing section.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Aldermen and the general public. I just would like to remind the general public that this is on Zoom, so that if you do have comments during any of these public hearings, I would ask you to raise your hand on the Zoom or send an email to the city clerk so she knows to take your public comments as they come up for the specific public hearings. And I just ask for everybody's patience because of the pandemic. We are doing the best we can to have these public hearings. The first public hearing I have for tonight is Bennington Apartments Conditional Use Permit 71. For purposes of this public hearing, I'd ask the Planning and Zoning report be made a part of the record by reference. The minutes from the Planning and Zoning meeting in the public hearing that occurred previously in front of Planning and Zoning. The public hearing notice for the prior public hearing and this public hearing be made a part of the record. The city code of the city of Warrenton, Missouri, and the comprehensive plan of the city of Warrenton, Missouri. For purposes of this public hearing, because we are on Zoom tonight, and the board has had the opportunity to look at the presentations that were prior given at Planning and Zoning, and also the minutes. And for all the public hearings tonight, I'm going to request that the applicants, instead of re-presenting it, present any additional information that they may have tonight for the board's consideration. The first public hearing we have is the Bennington Apartments CUP. This is a 0.76 acres of property at the intersection of Arlington Way and Armory Road. It is currently zoned C2 General Commercial District, and the project, the apartments, is allowed and does require a conditional use permit, which is the first item for the public hearing tonight. Lewis and Beatty is here on behalf of the applicant, and I would imagine we'd be able to answer any questions that are applicable, although it looks like Bart may be hiding behind some cage or door, or maybe that's just the door. Oh, there it is. I would point out, for purposes of this public hearing and to inform the public and the board, the future land use plan of the city designates the subject site as single-family residential. However, further analysis shows that the subject site is more adjacent to multifamily and commercial properties. The site location is more appropriately used as a multifamily site, creating an entrance into the residential zone to the north. The Planning and Zoning Commission did review the standards under 405.340.G and found unanimously in favor of granting the conditional use permit. It was 8-0, and staff also recommends that the conditional use permit be approved, and we have drafted an ordinance for the purposes of the meeting tonight, and recommends its approval with the following condition: that a final stormwater management plan be submitted in accordance with section 430.110 prior to the approval of any building permits. I have nothing further on behalf of the city of Warrenton. I know Mr. Corman's here. I don't know if he has anything to add. And then, Mayor, I'd ask you to call for public comment on Zoom. Thank you.
Duly noted. Mr. Corman?
You actually have Cullen Bruckerhoff with Lewis and Beatty.
Okay.
Basically, want to kind of piggyback what Chris just said. The site is kind of set up as a multifamily, kind of accommodates a multifamily use. You got multifamily to the north, multifamily to the south. You could potentially have multifamily to the east and commercial area to the west. Obviously, we're going in with a 4-unit apartment building and a 6-unit apartment building on this 0.76 acres, with the condition of a final stormwater plan at construct. We'll provide the final stormwater construction plan during permit or construction permitting process. With that, basically just kind of want to open it up to any questions that the alderman may have.
Are there any
I
questions?
have a question. If approved, do we have any type of time frame of when construction would start?
I believe the client would want to start as soon as he can, as soon as he gets permits in hand.
That is correct.
And if I can, I just want to remind whoever just spoke up, I know it was Mr. Pollard. Can you state your name for the public hearing record?
Yes, sir. This is Adam Pollard. We plan to break ground as early as January if we can get everything pushed through as far as plans and our stormwater plan approved. We'll start as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
I guess, is it Melody? Is there any from, or Brandy, is there any from Zoom or from the public?
I don't have any on Zoom. Melody, do you have any?
I'm going to take that as a no.
It's a no.
Okay, excellent. All right. Moving on to the next one.
Thank you, Mayor. The next public hearing we have is for Bennington Place Apartments, site plan SP 141. Once again, I'd ask for purposes of this public hearing that the planning and zoning officer's report be made a part of the record. The public hearing notice both for the planning and zoning public hearing and the public hearing tonight be made a part of the record. The minutes from the planning and zoning public hearing and meeting from the approval of this site plan. I think that's, the city code for the city of Warrenton and the comprehensive land use plan for the city of Warrenton. Once again, this is Bennington Place Apartments. This is 0.76 acres at the intersection of Arlington Way and Armory Road. Currently it's zone C2 general commercial. The conditional use permit public hearing just occurred, and this is the site plan public hearing. Once again, as I mentioned in the prior public hearing, this is consistent with the comprehensive plan. In considering the site plan characteristics under 405.390H, the Planning and Zoning Commission did find 8-0 favorably that this met the city of Warrenton's municipal code and zoning requirements. Staff has reviewed the proposed plan and recommends approval of the request, and an ordinance has been drafted to include these conditions that include a detail of the trash enclosure verifying compliance with the Warrenton City Code be provided to the city prior to the issuance of any building permits, and a completion escrow will be required in accordance with section 430.125. At that, Mayor, I have no further public comments or no further information on behalf of the city.
And all that will be duly noted. Thank you. Any comments from anyone else?
No.
On the
No.
Board of Aldermen, I should say.
No.
No.
Any from the public, Brandy or Melody?
Nothing from Zoom.
Nobody from the public here.
All right. Thank you. We'll move on to the next one.
Mayor, the next three are listed on the agenda items as public hearings. Those public hearings are canceled. That is Best Box Storage ZC 63, Best Box Storage CUP 72, and Best Box Storage SP 142. Those petitions for rezoning, conditional use permit, and site plan have been withdrawn. We anticipate they will come back after some comments and feedback from city staff sometime in December. And I just want to point out under the new public hearing policy, hopefully we won't have where we're advertising prior to approval from planning and zoning. So this kind of showing up as a plan, as a public hearing, and then they withdraw, it doesn't occur again. So think that'll be one of the benefits. So the next public hearing is the estate at Pinckney Ridge, Phase 1. This is George Heath rezoning from Ag to R2. It is ZC 64. It's 33.21 acres at the intersection of Pinckney Drive and Warrior Avenue. For purposes of the public hearing, I'd ask that the city code be made a part of the record by reference, the comprehensive land use plan be made a part of the record by reference, the planning and zoning report to the Board of Aldermen and to the Planning and Zoning Commission be made a part of the record by reference. The ordinances of the city of Warrenton, the comprehensive land use plan, the advertisements in front of the Board of Aldermen and the Planning and Zoning Commission be made a part of the record by reference. And the minutes and vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission be made a part of the record by reference. There's a pretty extensive discussion with regards to the rezoning request. Staff did find that this rezoning request to the R2 residential is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan of the city of Warrenton. And the R2 district sets out the size standards for permitted conditional uses, the lot widths, minimum lot size, maximum structure height, yard setback requirements are all set forth within the code. Planning and zoning did review this rezone request and determined that it was consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and recommended 8-0 unanimously that the Board of Aldermen approved the estate at Pinckney Ridge rezoning request. I'm here to answer any questions on behalf of the city, and I don't know if anybody's here on behalf of the developer, but that essentially is that rezone request in public hearing.
Is it anybody here
Oh.
on behalf of the developer would like to make a comment?
Yes, sir, I am. This is Steve Randall with Cochran Engineering. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right, thank you. Exactly what Mr. Graville stated. It's a 98 lot subdivision on 33.2 acres. We're requesting rezoning from Ag District to R2, which is consistent with future use. And I'm here to take any questions.
Yes, there was some concerns expressed by one of the property owners at the zoning meeting about water runoff. Have you looked at that and confirmed, and has the city employees responsible looked at that to confirm that water runoff will not be an issue?
What I can do is say stormwater, as far as detention and flow off of the site, will be done in accordance with Warrenton code. And so I guess what that entails is what I have to do in design is to make sure that pre versus post flows are equal, or that after proposed items are put in place, the flow leaving the site is equal or less than what was there existing. And there is a large detention basin to the northeast that will take care of the majority of the water.
Yeah, I think the person who had the concern was somebody who wasn't living on the northeast, they were living on the south side of the development.
Yeah, that detention basin is going to take the vast majority of water flow from the entirety of the site, and very little is going to move to the south. I believe the concern was to the south.
Yes.
Yeah, and that'll still hold to City of Warrenton standards that pre versus post flows will either be equal or less than.
Okay. I guess
Any
a
other
question for Terry. Since we don't have enough staff to deal with some of these zoning issues, how is the city going to review that drawing to make sure that it complies with our standards of no less flow? Is that going to be turned over to outside party, or is that something maybe Guy can do on his own?
No, Brandy has arranged it so that we will be sending these out to George Butler Associates. If you recall, for a number of years, they were the party who reviewed all of our subdivision plans and stormwater plans. So we've already made arrangements to have them review all of the stormwater plans for us moving forward. So it will go out to them for review and comment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
No.
Any questions or comments from Zoom or from?
No.
I have nothing from Zoom.
Melody?
Nobody from the public.
Okay. We can move on to the next item.
Thank you, Mayor. The next public hearing is a change to code, a text amendment, and this public hearing is with regards to the request for amendment to section 405.280 telecommunication towers and facilities, ADM 110. This is a staff request and a staff initiated text change. And the purpose of this is essentially to make the verbiage consistent with regards to who is managing approvals, or whether it's the planning, and it changes the language from planning as a zoning officer to the Board of Aldermen's designee or the Board of Aldermen. So there's those options that are in place with regards to reviewing and considering approval of telecommunication facilities. Planning and zoning approved this 8-0 and made their recommendation that the Board of Aldermen approve this text change. And I would ask for purposes of this public hearing that the planning and zoning officer's report be made a part of the record, and the code of the city of Warrenton, Missouri, and the public hearing notices and minutes approving this from planning and zoning, and the public hearing notice for tonight's public hearing.
We duly noted. Any comments from the Board of Aldermen?
Nope.
I do have a comment on this. I'm a little concerned about it, and we'll discuss this later in the meeting because it's on the agenda. You know, so I fully understand what this is about. This is about empowering a staff person to make a decision on a tower or communication facility without going before the board. Is that correct?
It is, but I don't have the ordinance in front of me, and I can look at it before we get to discussion on it, Alderman Ock, so I can answer that question. I believe it was a terminology basically update to what we have. I will tell. Oh, go ahead.
It currently states planning and zoning officer, and the language change is to change that language from planning and zoning officer to the Board of Aldermen's designee or the Board of Aldermen. So it's not changing the level of authority, it's just changing the title and adding the ability to bring it to the Board of Aldermen if it's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, here's my concern on this is I think, if we go through situations where in city limits, somebody is putting a water tower or a telecommunication tower up, some people would view that as intrusive on their property, even though it may be farther away. So I think it has a tendency to become somewhat more of a political issue or an issue where the public would want to have input. And my concern is if it doesn't go to the council every time on these kind of issues, that the public may, feel like something was created without their opportunity for input. So do you see what I'm saying? So if an officer, zoning officer, or whoever this person is would say, okay, I'm gonna give you a permit to build this tower and it's within 500 yards of my house, I may not necessarily feel that's appropriate. And I want to make sure that person, if it was me in that case, would have the ability to go before the board and state my objection or my case relative to it. I just don't want to make sure we miss that opportunity by just having a staff person. Because I think a lot of times staff people can do stuff and it expedites and it's a lot easier for the person with the application. And that's a good thing we're doing. But I just feel like when towers come along, it's a little bit different situation where there needs to be the alderman approving something as opposed to just a staff person approving it because they were designated. That's my only thought, which we can discuss later.
And Alderman Ock, if I can respond to that, I would just say that one of the things in looking at this, my focus has been, there's been over the last 3 or 4 years, really 2 to 3 years legislatively, a lot of restrictions on what a city can do with telecommunication towers, and what boards can do and how much, preempting certain regulations of the city. And, this was something that had been on the queue for a while to update this language so it was consistent the language throughout the zoning code for who's doing what, that it's zoning officer here and it's consistent throughout. But I will tell you, we're going to have to bring that ordinance back in a couple of months to really update it with the recent legislative changes that have been in there. So you're going to see probably a total rehaul of it in, I would say, in the next couple of months, just because when I've looked at it, I haven't really focused on the language change because I've saw here and there where I'm like, we got to get this updated. We got to get this updated.
Okay.
So should we just take that ordinance off for tonight, Chris, and wait on the full changes?
Well, I think we can do that, but I mean, for what we have now, I would like it to be consistent. And then we bring the full changes. I know we're going to do it twice, but since we've already done the public hearings, you know, and this was a note I made to myself at the planning and zoning meeting. I was like, oh, we got to update this with some of the legislative. I would say we just pass it tonight so we get the language consistent, and we'll go back and rework the whole thing and get that back to you guys.
Yeah, again, my concern is even if we can't do a lot about, you know, what the state imposes on us, I think to have an opportunity for somebody from the public to come before the council and voice their concerns, I think that's a right we should make sure that somebody from the public can do, even though we really can't change it or make any substantive, you know, directions that are different what the state directs. I still think it allows the public to have an opportunity to voice their opinion on what's going on.
Any other comments?
No.
Okay. Well, any comments from Zoom or from Melody?
Nobody from the public.
Nobody from Zoom.
All right, we'll move on.
All right, sorry about that. I'm just sending myself an email reminder to get the ordinance updated. So if you can have a sec here. Okay. Hold on. Sorry about that. All right, so the next public hearing, Mayor, tonight is zoning officer ADM 111. This is a request for amendment to section 405.310, the zoning officer definition. Section 405.310 is being amended to state that the zoning officer is the same as the director of planning and development. This is once again the terminology cleanup. The public hearing notice was posted in the Warren County Record on October 15, 2020. Planning and zoning considered this zone change and passed it with an 8-0 with 8-0 vote unanimously. We're recommending that this language be updated for consistency throughout the entire zoning ordinance. And I would ask for purposes of this public hearing that the city code be made a part of the record by reference. The advertisement for the public hearing for both planning and zoning and here tonight at the Board of Aldermen be made a part of the record by reference. And that's it.
Any questions or comments?
No.
Any questions or comments from Zoom or the public?
Nothing
None.
from Zoom.
And nothing from public.
We'll move on then.
All right, so the next one I have is a request for amendment, public hearing. Next public hearing is request for amendments to section 410.190 maintenance and supervision, ADM 112. Section 410.190 maintenance and supervision is requested to be amended to include collector box units. These are the large box mailboxes and stormwater improvements. The public hearing notice was posted in the Warren County Record on October 15, 2020. I'd ask that those public hearing notices be made a part of the record for this public hearing tonight and also the public hearing in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Planning and Zoning approved or recommended approval to the Board of Aldermen with a vote of 8-0. And we city staff asked that the amendment to section 410.190 be approved by the Board of Aldermen. I'd ask that the city code be made a part of the record by reference and the minutes evidencing the approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission be made a part of the record by reference. I have nothing further, Mayor, on behalf of the city.
All be duly noted. Is there any comments from the board?
Nope.
No.
Are there any comments from Zoom or the public?
Nothing from Zoom.
Nothing from the public.
Thank you. We'll move on.
Unfortunately, this is the last public hearing I have tonight, Mayor. Last public hearing I have is ADM 113. This is a request for amendments to section 405.390 site plan process. This is a staff initiated zoning text amendment. Planning and zoning approved it 8-1 or 8-1, and the site plan process essentially changes. The administrative site plan approval is being amended by removing remodeling of a building or structure that does not involve any additions or modifications to the exterior of the building or structure except the one time adding, and 3, remodeling of building or structure resulting in expansive of no more than 10% of the main building and still adhering to all code requirements, removing if no enlargement or expansion is involved, and then adding F, site plan approval shall also become invalid if the conditions of the site plan are not met. So this would be an enforcement mechanism to revoke the site plan. This was public hearing notice was posted in the Warren County Record on October 15, 2020. I'd ask that the city code be made a part of the record by reference. The advertisements for the public hearing at both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Aldermen tonight be made a part of the record by reference. The minutes evidencing the approval it says 8-1, and then it says 8-0. Do you know, Brandy, was that 8-0 or 8-1?
It was 8-0. My bad. It was
Okay,
8-0,
all right.
one
I was like,
absent,
I can remember somebody voting.
and one vacancy. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
My
So
typo.
0, there was not a negative vote. There would have been one more planning commissioner that would have been there. Be made a part of the record by reference. So just kind of briefly beyond just the zoning report, officer's report, basically this is kind of changing the way we have limited administrative site plan approval, and adding that if you remodel a building or structure and resulting in expansion no more than 10% of the main building is still adhering to code requirements, and removing the section that doesn't have any additions or modifications. And I think I don't know if anybody else wants to speak on this, Terry or Brandy, but I think this is probably a more effective way. We came up with that language originally as part of the zoning code, and this probably makes a little bit more sense for the really, really minor remodels to the properties, which probably affects downtown more than anything else. So I have nothing further on behalf of the city.
All duly noted. Thank you. Is there any comments from the Board of Aldermen?
No.
Nope.
Any comments from Zoom or the public?
None from Zoom.
None from the public.
Okay. With that being said, we'll go ahead and bring the public hearing section of the Warren Board of Aldermen meeting for November 17, 2020 to a close. We will open the regular Board of Aldermen meeting at this time. And we will start things off with the consent agenda.
We have the regular and the work session minutes from November the 3rd, 2020.
Any questions or comments on that?
No.
We'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Cheryl can have it.
First was made by Alderman Miller, second was Alderman Dyer. Roll call vote.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Next will be the public comments on the estates at Pinckney Ridge.
I have nobody on Zoom.
Okay, anybody in the public? Melody?
Nobody here wants to make any comments.
Okay, excellent. Next will be hearing from the public. Do you have anybody, Brandy, that on Zoom that would like to make a public statement?
I do not see anybody on Zoom.
Melody?
Nobody here has any comments to make.
Okay. We'll move on. Next will be from the Board of Aldermen.
Yeah, I have been approached by several people who are residents of the city wanting to know if the aldermen would consider passing or placing some kind of restrictions as it relates to the COVID going on in the city. Clearly, the governor has advocated his responsibility to local authorities, and we haven't discussed this in a while. And I'm not up to speed on the conversations that have been held by the commissioners, but I think there is some interest in the public to hearing some kind of conversation relative to should we be enforcing stronger codes as it relates to the COVID for right now.
I have somewhat of an update on that from a conference call with the governor at 4 o'clock this afternoon. The governor did make it clear that he does not intend to have a statewide mandate of any sort, but feels strongly that the local level action is needed. He stated that the cases have doubled in the state in the last 30 days, and that if no actions are taken, that within 4 to 5 weeks, the healthcare system is going to be unable to handle the flow of individuals into the healthcare system, and that is going to be tragic. On Friday, there will be another conference call with the mayor. We don't have information on that yet, but we will share it. It's for emergency services and elected officials. We'll share that information once we have it, but he indicated that on the Friday call that they will have recommendations for local officials on potential actions that should be taken locally. So once we get that, we will share that with any of you who have the ability to be on that call. The current positivity rate in Warren County is 30.7%, which is up 10.5% over the last 7 days. So there was some definite concern out of the mayor's office on the call today, even though he stopped short of a state mandate.
The governor.
The governor,
Governor's
so,
office.
not sorry. So on Friday, I guess we will have more of an indication of what the recommendations out of the governor's office are to be taken on a local level.
I asked Terry to forward that information on to us Friday when she receives it, at least to me.
I will forward it on to all the elected officials, our elected officials, once I have it. And it's
Yeah,
not a
please.
Zoom call, it's just a conference call. You can call in on your cell phone or whatever.
Yeah, please do. I think whoever decides to do it can have the information. If they choose not to, that's fine too.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm sorry. I think it's been a little while since we've discussed this, going back probably to July or even before then. So I think would be an opportunity to revisit this and certainly get any input from the public that you feel like you may want, or, do some research or some soul searching or whatever it is. And I would think it'd be appropriate if we just revisited that conversation.
In a public forum is what you're saying.
Well, we should probably do everything in a public forum.
Well, but what I'm saying is you're trying to open an update for public to interject any type of opinions or concerns they may have.
Well, now what I'm also saying is I think if people from the public who are watching this who have an interest need to contact, the alderman or the mayor and, share their concerns with them also. So that's really the thrust of the conversation. But we certainly could have a discussion in the next meeting or especially call meeting to see if we can, revisit this topic.
Duly noted. Any other comments?
I would just like to give a shout out to Sean, whoever Sean is, for fixing my iPad. It wasn't all operator error. There really was a problem. I want y'all to know that. And I would just like to remind our residents, if you are parking on the street, please lock your vehicles. We've had a few incidents lately of cars being broken into, people running around. That I have a Ring doorbell, so I get alerts from other Ring doorbell owners. So if you are parking on the street, please be sure you don't have any valuables in your car and that your vehicle is locked up. And I'm enjoying the Christmas lights already. It's nice. Something good for a change. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other comments? All right. As far as my comments, for the mayor's comments, I'll tell you, I think it is concerning about the COVID increase. I think it's something that we do need to look at. I'm not one to sit here and tell you exactly what needs to be done, but don't slight it. And I think the increase we've seen within Warren County is something that needs to be addressed, and it's something we need to talk about openly, and share each opinion, whatever side you stand on. I think it has become more of a topic lately, as of recent, in the past probably 15 to 20 days. And I do think it is noted that we need to openly discuss it and have open communications about it, regardless of what we decide as a city, or maybe join in with county or state level, whatever, and maybe soon enough federal level, who knows. But whatever is agreed upon, I hope that people are understanding and compliance with it. This could cause a lot of conflict and aggravation, but understand the end result is for safety of everyone, not just one or two individuals, but everyone that's involved in it. Please be patient while we're trying to go through and figure out why a surge is here and what we should do to be protective as a city within it. So kind of springboarding off of Alderman Ock's comments. Any other comments?
Nope.
All right. I believe the added line was the Gateway Fiber. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you so much for inviting us to share a little bit more about Gateway Fiber with everyone here this evening. My name is John Meyer. On behalf of Gateway Fiber, my colleague Heath Sellenrick is a part of this phone call as well. So we'll be able to tag team any questions related to some of the slides that we're about to share with you. But I think if you wouldn't mind, Brandy, advancing to the next slide. I wanted to give everyone just sort of a quick overview of what Gateway is and what we're really trying to develop in the Warrenton area. We are a fiber to the home internet service provider based in Jonesburg currently. We are about a year and a half old. So still, you know, in a growth stage for a company. However, we are eyeing additional markets for expansion, and certainly considering Warrenton as a very attractive place to bring fiber broadband into the area, which will really benefit not just residential, but business, local businesses as well. And for those of you that don't know, you know, fiber is a much better product than standard either telco offerings or cable offerings from a service perspective. So we can talk a little bit more about that on the following slide, but the company itself was founded with Sellenrick Construction, which is a leading fiber construction company that's based in Jonesburg and has a history of over 20 or 30 years as well. So we certainly have a deep expertise in this area. And as most of you know, there is a COVID and the environment that everyone is facing is accelerating the need for reliable broadband services. So many communities don't have proper access, some of which certainly don't have a lot of competition either. And so what we're trying to do is come in with a very competitive product at a very competitive price. And really deliver something that can positively impact the communities that we wish to partner with. The working from home and schooling from home environment is a challenge, and we believe that everyone should have access to a reliable broadband service as part of that. So our product itself is a gig speed product that is currently our top end from a speed perspective, but we are really trying to sort of reinvent the expectation of an internet service provider. We are customer focused. We are very transparent in our pricing. We are focused on no lock-ins or contracts, with of course a very consistent and reliable product that actually outperforms most of the things that are in market today. If you wouldn't mind advancing one more slide. So this is kind of a snapshot, and I know it's probably a little bit difficult to see depending on your screen resolution size, but a snapshot of our proposed coverage area. This is, I think, an initial snapshot. We're certainly, open to some dialogue here. And from a timing perspective, with your support, we would be looking to be executing construction in January, with services available to residents and businesses in the first quarter. Heath, do you have anything else to add to that quick summary?
Yeah, like John said, we were formed in the spring of 19. We started in Winfield, Missouri. We've since moved to Troy, Moscow Mills, Hawk Point, and Old Monroe. And Warrenton is the next in line that we would like to build. And basically, we're not asking anything from the city of Warrenton besides being able to use your all's rights of ways. And that's all we're asking from the city of Warrenton, is that we can use those. And other than that, we 100% private capital. We got as a slide showed, we got a new partner, Cross Timbers Capital Group, and we have very aggressive growth expansion. So that's just a little bit about us.
Keith, what is the blue line going? Is that 47 or what am I seeing? The blue?
That blue line going north is along 47. That's our future transport route that we would eventually build. But yeah, going north there is 47.
Okay.
I have a question. I'd like for you to consider going south on 47. We have several growing subdivisions south of town that I'm sure are in need of upgrading the communications that we're discussing. But that, I think, would be advantageous to go south, covering that populated area that we have south of town.
Yeah, we are planning to serve everybody in the city limits. When you start getting outside the city limits, especially in the rural areas, it just it can really put a crimp on the business model. But we are looking at some other options for areas outside the city limits. But we definitely are planning on serving. Our goal is to serve everybody in the city limits of Warrenton for sure.
What I was specifically looking at is within our city limits south.
Yeah, we'll definitely. This is a preliminary kind of engineering map that we use. We're actually working on our engineering for Warrenton now, but we plan on serving as much as we can the city limits of Warrenton, and we'll definitely look at it with the city for sure.
Okay, thank you.
But let me ask some questions I just don't know. So when we listen to TV ads and they talk about, oh, the latest thing is 5G for phone. What is the latest thing for internet service?
It is fiber to the home. Currently, Warrenton's being served by twisted pair copper cable or coaxial from the two incumbents. And physically, just the physics of copper and electricity, you can only do so much bandwidth can go across those lines. As far as fiber optics, scientists have never maxed out the capabilities of fiber optics. It's always been electronics on both ends. So you talk about future proof. It's future proof as a network as you can get.
So do you put your lines into an area and then lease out to one of the service providers, like a, Spectrum or whoever else is, in the area? Is that how you operate, or do you actually provide some type of service other than laying the lines?
No, we provide 100% of the service. So, we build our main lines along the city rights of ways. And then if the customer signs up for service, we bury a line from the curb to the side of their house and install equipment inside their house to provide them service.
Okay, so you're offering a complete package then to somebody in a home.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're definitely 100% in-house service offering.
Do you have any idea of your pricing to sign someone up along your route?
Johnny, you want to handle that?
Yeah, so our pricing model today is changing a little bit, but our speed per price will be set up somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 megabits, 500 megabits, and a gig speed. So basically 3 tiers. So 250 being the slowest, if you want to call it that, which is actually faster than Charter's current capabilities. From a pricing perspective, that 250 megabit service would be $65. The 500 would be $75, and the gigabit would be was it 90, Heath, or 95?
90. Yeah.
90. And those are flat fees. There's no strings attached. There's no promotional pricing. There's no there's no bait and switch with that at all. So we're focused on very much everyone gets the same price. The price is the same, as long as you're a customer, and really, bringing a better than what's in the market product at a very manageable price.
You mentioned the numbers 90, 90, and 65 and 75. Is that per what? Per month, per year?
Per month. So $65 per month at the low end, 65, 85, or 95.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Let me ask, I don't know if you can answer this, or maybe Terry or Chris Gravel needs to jump in. So does the city have a exclusive agreement with Charter or Spectrum now, or are we open? Because I know one time we discussed bringing in like a Quiver River into the city, but we had, there was an exclusive agreement with Ameren. So what are we at in terms of opportunities or what we can do from the standpoint of any agreements we currently have?
Chris and I have talked about this only briefly, but we do not have any agreement currently in play with any of the existing providers that would prohibit the ability to allow them to utilize our right-of-ways and come into the city.
Just out of curiosity, was Spectrum paying for the right-of-way use?
No,
No.
they are
Okay.
not paying anything for right-of-way use.
Okay.
One of the questions that I have is, I believe at some point I heard that in order for the city residents to have access to 5G, it requires this ability to have fiber within our community. Is that a true statement? And will this allow that ability for 5G to be accessed in our city?
Yeah, true 5G has to be run off of pure fiber. It can't run off anything else. So that is one thing we kind of robustly build our network to possibly provide or allow someone else to provide that service. That's something we won't provide, but a large carrier, we do beef up our network for those possibilities for sure.
Thank you.
So if this was agreed upon and what be it, how fast would it be operational and available for our residents?
Our goal is, if we move forward, is first quarter of 21 to start turning customers up in town.
So what you're looking for us is an agreement to allow you to put fiber in the right-of-ways? Is that basically it?
Yeah, I don't know if the city requires an actual agreement. I know they don't with the current ones. We just want to come to the board and say this is kind of what our plan is and answer any questions we have and be able to proceed on if the board agrees.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, I'd have to ask you to jump in on this because, I mean, I don't believe we have any right to either give permission or deny if somebody's using right away for service.
I think to Alderman Ott's point, I think it's really a question of, I would imagine that the fiber company would want some type of user agreement if they're putting it in that far so they can continue on with the project and not be stopped if, a future board reconsiders. We do have a right-of-way permit, excavating permit. You guys do have the right to negotiate a user agreement or a franchise agreement with them, but I know the internet is a need. I think that's one of the things that I think it would be beneficial in this situation to at least consider doing it. But obviously it's a service that I'm sure everybody on the Zoom, would say is a good service for the city. So, you do have restricted and limited rights in your right of way, but you do still have the ability to negotiate some specifics and definitely restoration of the property, which I know has been the biggest issue in projects before.
So here's an issue that I don't know if it exists or not. Maybe this is something, I don't know if Guy is listening to this or not. Your right of way width is only so wide. How full is the current right of way with other things going in? Because I know in the past, there's been conversation about, let's say, the alley between 47 and Cherry, that one of the reasons people didn't want to expand building on 47 there is because there's so much in the right of way in terms of cabling and all that, that it would be prohibitive to have somebody build. So are right of ways packed or are they not? I mean, I think the idea of having somebody come in competition is great, but I just kind of looking at the mechanics. What does that mean if you put another line in the right of way? Are they full? What's the situation?
I think, Gary, that depends on specifically where you're speaking about. So my feeling is that we do need to enter into some kind of an agreement so that there's no misunderstanding between the city and the provider about what we are actually agreeing to. And so I think prior to starting any kind of installation, what that agreement should say is that there will be a meeting with city staff, Guy, the Public Works Director, and that the avenues that will be used will be looked at to determine the best placement in those right of ways, because there may be places that we are aware that we're going to have future construction. And obviously we don't want to have to move a fiber optic line for future construction. So I think there should be a requirement for the Public Works Director to grant, review and grant approval of those locations and to come to an agreement on where it will actually be placed and those sorts of things. So I believe we do need, an agreement of some sort so that there's no misunderstanding about what is being granted for approval and what needs to be reviewed, and then subsequent approval by the Public Works Department.
Yeah, I would concur with that 100%, because, if there's areas where we know there's going to be future construction, we certainly don't want to run something through there that's going to make it more prohibitive for the person coming in to do it. So I think a meeting would be beneficial to sit down and look at their project proposal from the standpoint of the city staff and where you see us going, and get the input from the department heads to make sure that we're on track. I mean, again, I think competition is great, and I certainly think we should seriously look at this and see what we can do, but I just want to make sure we do it right.
Well, and I think this is something that we need, if we're going to do this, we need to move forward on this quickly for future residential developments and our economic development. These people are looking for these kinds of services. Business people, if you're looking at any kind of industry, they are going to want broadband. And if we can offer that, that's just another feather in our cap for future development. And I think it's really important to move forward on this.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Cheryl. I think it's incumbent that we move forward expeditiously.
Any other comments? I'm sorry.
So next step would be for city staff to get together with these representatives and take a look at the proposed layout of the lines, and then City Attorney Graville to put together some basic agreement. And if Mr. Sullivan or Mr. Meyer, you have an agreement that you have in place somewhere else, perhaps you could provide us with that to use as a basis to work off of, which will make that go faster.
For sure. We have an agreement with Winfield and Moscow Mills, and another city's just getting ready to approve it. That's simple, but I think it addresses everything that you all talked about. And we don't want to wait. We definitely want to meet with staff beforehand, before we do our final engineering. Because last thing we want to do is spend a significant amount of time and money placing something, and then a year or two down the road have to move it for a road project or water project. So we're 100% in agreement of that.
That's great. If you could send me a couple of those sample agreements, then that will allow us to get a really quick start on putting that together.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting us this evening.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation. We'll definitely be in touch.
Do you need anything from us tonight, Mayor?
No.
No.
We're going to let staff get together with them, let the attorney go over it, and then we'll probably have something to present after that.
Okay.
So next we'll hear from City Administrator Terry Thorne.
I only have one thing for you this evening, and it is really a question. We had spoken recently about reinitiating the downtown property maintenance inspections that, if you recall, early in this year, we had just initiated, and then COVID came and we made the decision that it was not the time to be doing this with all of that going on. And then recently we talked about reinitiating that in January with a 60-day grace period with no enforcement, and a letter to go out now, letting the downtown business and property owners know that that would be coming. I started writing that letter and then stopped because I think we should at least reconsider our timing on this. With COVID ravaging the way that it is now and increasing so desperately, with the potential for whatever kind of issues may be coming toward businesses to try to slow the spread of the COVID, is this really the right time for us as a city to be sending out a letter with yet another thing that's coming, even though it's a couple of months away? I just wanted to make sure that we didn't want to reconsider the timing of this before I actually put the letter together.
I want to
Well-
recommend.
Well, and I agree with what Terry was saying. We discussed this a little bit. I think it is up to something we need to reconsider as a group, but here's the deal. With the governor being able to having these meetings, and I'm sure with local officials that we're going to start having these meetings again, speaking about this, I think it is something we need to consider, maybe putting the brakes on until we figure out exactly how we're going to attack or deal with things, instead of instituting something we have to go back and revisit again.
Well, Mayor, I would concur with you for once, for what that's worth.
Okay.
Me as
excellent.
well.
I like that it's once. That's awesome.
Me
One
as
time.
well. Me too. They
I
got
love that
enough to
everybody's
worry
once.
about
Thanks.
without that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Timing
they're
is
just
everything.
trying to keep their
I
heads in
agree.
the water. Let's not push them
I
under.
agree.
Okay, great. So I'm glad I didn't spend any more time working on that letter, because I just started and went, I don't think this is quite the right time for this. So
Yeah.
we will just put that on for a future discussion somewhere down the road.
And guys, we
Thank
may
you.
have we may have to attack and revisit some of these other things too. I mean, it's an ever changing and day by day thing. It feels like, doesn't it, Terry?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think part of the issue is it's kind of frustrating, especially downtown, when it's an exterior issue going on and you see the same thing over and over and over and for years now on some of the same buildings, and you just feel like, when is this ever going to get resolved? But I think, timing and prudency is the correct thing at this time.
Agree with you. For once.
Great, thank you. We will just put that on for a future discussion at some point. And that's all I have for you this evening.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Next, we'll have Director of Operations, Brandy Walters.
Good evening. The first thing that I have for you tonight is we have a supplemental agreement from Crawford, Murphy and Tilly. These are the folks that are doing our consulting services for our North 47 sidewalk project. And they had to do some unanticipated designing in order to accommodate some existing drainage. So we're asking that we adjust their not to exceed amount by $24,908.78. This would bring their total contract amount up to $455,114.73, which we are currently under, with the costs, we're currently under that budget so far.
This will be a bill later on the agenda, correct?
Yes, it will.
Any questions?
Nope.
No.
All right, let's go ahead and move on, Brandy.
The next thing that I have for you is our monthly administration report. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot to report because everything's we're not letting people meet in person. So we're not meeting with staff or anything like that. Our interviews that we've done have been over Zoom. However, we have quite a bit of Facebook activity going on, which is good. Kind of keeping that animal control page is really out there in front of people. We did have one incident, however, it's just a reporting issue. There was no claim or anything on that accident.
Brandy, I've got a question. on the animal that we put on Facebook. Do we have responses from the public regarding the items we put on there?
We actually do. A lot of people follow that. We have found, Brenda actually has found that a lot of people will follow the separate animal control page versus a city page. So anybody that really doesn't want to follow all the city stuff, but they will follow that animal control page. So she's gotten a lot of feedback on there.
She's doing a good job on that. I
She
noticed
is.
that. It's a good
Yes.
deal.
She does really good with that.
Any other questions or comments about the monthly admin report?
Nope.
All right, Brandon.
And then I believe the next items Chris is going to talk to you about there regarding the public hearings that you guys have already heard about.
Okay, before Chris talks about that, C through J will be bills later on the agenda.
Yes.
All right, hey, Chris.
Well, I don't know that there's much more to talk about, or it's really at this point, I think, discussions and answering questions for you guys regarding Bennington Apartments, Bennington, the CUP, and the site plan, the Pinckney Ridge rezone preliminary plat, and then the code changes, which is G through J. So they are all on for ordinances tonight. I don't know, Mayor, if you want to just open it up for discussion on any of them or start at the top. I know it's a lot of changes, a lot of code updates, a lot of these have been kind of in the queue, and we'll bring that ordinance back to you guys as well.
A lot of information was sent out on the packets that we got Saturday, and I think it helps a lot to go through those ahead of time, so you have at least a little idea of what we're going to be discussing on these items.
I wanted my comment on Bennington. Certainly I'm all for what they're doing and will vote to approve it. But, one thing that came up, or when you look at the site plans, like any other site plans where you have, properties butting up, we always try to put in trees and stuff like that, landscaping to kind of create a buffer zone. And, when I look at what was created for Cat 2 on the interstate, I didn't realize you could put in trees that are smaller than fences. So I think the intent to try to create buffer zones is good, but I'm wondering if we need to think about how do we really truly create a buffer zone so that we're shielding properties that may have somewhat incompatible usages by just saying, well, put 2 or 3 trees in and that's good enough. Well, if you drive by the Cat 5 place, those trees are really small. We put a lot of them in, that's great. But that fence is also a lot bigger than the trees. So maybe we should try to get more specific in terms of landscaping and say a tree of a certain height or a certain type or something. I know that's getting pretty technical, but I think if you're the one who's getting a property built next to your house, I think you're going to be a little bit more concerned about the landscaping than, well, we just added 3 or 4 trees. There needs to be a little bit more detail. So I think maybe if staff could look at that and make some recommendations, to me, that would be helpful. I think it protects property owners' interest if we pay a little bit more attention to buffering.
I don't know, Gary. I'm not sure I agree with you on that. They're putting in landscaping that is going to grow. I mean, you can't ask them to put in a 15 or 20-foot tree. First off, it could be cost prohibitive, and then in a few years they're going to have to take them out because they've all grown together. I don't want to put that on some. I don't want to say, well, you can plant this kind of a tree, but you can't plant that kind of a tree. Now I think we're totally overstepping our bounds.
Well, I'm not proposing they put in 20-foot trees. I'm just saying maybe we can go back and revisit it to see if what we're requiring, it makes sense. That's all I'm saying. So let's not, go to 20-foot trees, because that's not what I was saying. I'm saying that it would make sense if we could revisit that, because sometimes some of the landscaping looks like it maybe could be a little bit different. the berm or something else. No one's looking to try to kill a developer's costs, certainly not. But I think property owner, if you're building next to a property owner, they have certain rights also. That's all I'm saying is just, can we revisit that?
Well, you have rights for your property, but I don't know that you have rights for somebody else's.
Well, that's not the point, Cheryl.
Well, I'm sorry. That's what I heard.
When we're talking about these Bennington apartments, I think they're going to mesh very well with the housing that will be next to it. I think it's very compatible. I don't really see a problem with blending in.
Well, again, that's how I started out my conversation. I said that I would support it, but I know, the comment was made in the meeting about, well, we landscape between the two properties, and there's 4 trees, so my point is it something we should relook at just to make sure that we're doing the right thing? Again, this is not about Bennington Apartments at all.
Okay. I mean, everybody's allowed and entitled to voice what they feel like, and it's duly noted.
So are we going down these things one at a time, Mayor, or can we just jump someplace? Because, the telephone tower situation's in there. What's the conclusion on that? Do we want to pull it off for tonight and redo it when the law's updated, or pass it, or?
Well, I think last time we tried to do something like that, we had some issues with the verbiage and language. I think it was better to pull it at the time, I think we ended up pulling it until we could get the verbiage correct. Was that what we did last time, Chris?
I think that's what we did. It's really more of a just generally updating the ordinance. So I'm fine with whatever you guys want to do. When I was reading that, that's what needs to be done.
I would say, Gary, that let's pull it off. It makes it less confusing when people go to look at the code and there's only one update. And it currently says planning and zoning officer. So if something comes in, then we still have the ability to handle it as it stands currently. So
which one are you wanting the telecommunication tower facilities pulled, or the zoning officer pulled?
No. Number 0.280, 0.2080 or 280.
405 280.
Yeah.
Bill 60.
I'll make a motion to remove that off the agenda.
I'll second.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 to remove bill number 60-2020, dealing with an ordinance amending section 405.280 for further verbiage and consideration from council.
Can I also then ask about the last one, item Q 3090? Could Terry or Chris, could you give us some background history to this? Because it's a staff recommendation, but it was caused by something that happened to require the recommendation to make the change. So could I get a little background history on that?
on which one, Gary?
On the site plan process. That had to do with changes in property that were less than 10% or something like that.
Right. Brandy, do you recall which one started this discussion?
I do not recall it. I know it's been since we started using Justin, because he's the one that he came up with it.
Right.
I do not
or what the was, but it basically was an existing business who wanted to make some very, very minor changes with a new business coming in. And because of the way the code was written, required it to go through the entire process when the reality of the change was something that was superficial and very minimal.
Okay.
So
I want to add to that, Terry, that it's been something we've struggled, and that I didn't describe this very well in the public hearing, but we've always struggled with that property, how to quantify a really minor change. You know, we had, you know, Oliver's, then do we require drawings? We had Cadillac Bar and Grill. We've always struggled with that existing building and how to quantify a small enough change to not make them have to go through that process. I just wanted to throw that in, Terry. Like, and I think this captures, instead of just saying like it was no additions or changes to the exterior of the building. Well, when you quantify it as 10%, I think it's going to be able to give us a little bit more flexibility, but yet keep it a pretty minor review of the project and not make them have to go through the full process. And Terry, we've always struggled with where is that line, and I think this concept gives us the ability to apply it to the exterior of the building if they're keeping the interior totally the same, but it's only a 10%. It's a facade change or something like that. I mean, I know that we had one where they changed the facade and we required them to go through under the old language. I forget which downtown building it was. So that's the purpose of it, Alderman Ock.
Okay, thank you.
So does anybody else have any questions
No.
or comments on
No.
any of the sections between, like I said, subsection C through J?
Nope.
Nope.
All right, Brandy,
No.
comments from Zoom?
No.
Do
And that's all I have for you.
you have any comments from the public?
No comments from the public.
Thank you. Brandy, thank you. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Next, we'll hear from Maintenance and Grounds Director Brad Boozy Cruz.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. You have my report in front of you today. Y'all have any questions?
No. I do not.
Any comments for Brad?
Nope.
Nope.
Brad, you get off easy tonight.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Building Commissioner Mike Cross.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. You have in front of you my monthly report.
Do we have any questions or comments for Mike?
Was it surprising that we got new residential permits up to 12 this past month? Or were you expecting that kind of movement? Because that's our
With
second
talk-
highest one for the year.
With talking with the contractors, they're all still moving forward with all their projects.
That's great.
Even with the lumber prices.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think what I understood is the new lumber prices are up almost on average, was it, what they say, 2,300 or 23,000 a house?
Wow.
Mike, is that correct?
They were averaging on the $180,000 houses. It was adding another $6,000 to their cost.
Okay, wow, yeah.
So currently we have 75. I've had 10 more already this month. So right now we're sitting at 85 new residential permits.
Wow.
Wow.
Great.
I agree with you, Cheryl. That is excellent.
Yeah.
Well, if there's no more comments or questions, Mike, I think you're good.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Chief of Police Larry Ellard.
Good evening. I just have one item on the agenda, and that's my monthly report.
Any questions or comments for the chief?
No.
Hey, Chief,
Yes, sir.
I don't have a question on your report. Your report's fine, but we have a bill later on the ordinance on the closing on the Vauxhall. Can you update me? I tried to find the meeting, but I couldn't see what generated that for the site distance where we're closing off the parking.
That was, if I remember right, that's parking on the
Yeah,
south side.
it was the parking on the south side of Vauxhall. I just wanted to know how we received the complaint.
That was a citizen complaint or several citizen complaints about limited site when you're trying to turn off a purging onto Vauxhall.
And I agree that we all as a board agreed with that. I couldn't remember what started that.
Yeah, that was generated from the citizenry.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Bills to ordinances. I will call for the first reading of bill number 56-2020.
So moved. Second.
Who did you give for the first one, Melody?
Alderman Deloy.
First motion was made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Ock. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. An ordinance approving the conditional use permit to allow Bennington Place Apartments located at the intersection of Arlington Way and Armory Road.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading and passage of bill number 56-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Miller.
An ordinance approving the conditional use permit to allow Bennington Place Apartments located at the intersection of Arlington Way and Armory Road.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz.
Yes.
Bill passes 6-0. I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 57-2020.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Schultz.
Second.
Melody, who'd you have?
I have Alderman Deloy and Alderman Schultz.
Okay.
A zoning ordinance as authorized under section 405.390 of the municipal code of the city of Warrenton, Missouri, approving a site plan for Bennington Place Apartments located at the intersection of Arlington Way and Armory Road.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading and passage of bill number 57-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Miller, seconded by Alderman Dyer.
A zoning ordinance as authorized under section 405.390 of the municipal code of the city of Warrenton, Missouri, approving a site plan for Bennington Place Apartments located at the intersection of Arlington Way and Armory Road.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump.
Yes.
Bill passes 6-0. I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 58-2020.
So moved.
Second.
So moved.
I believe it was Deloy and Dyer, is that correct?
Yes. An ordinance authorizing the rezoning of approximately 33.21 acres located at the intersection of Pinckney Drive and Warrior Avenue from AG agricultural to R2 medium density single family residential and amending the zoning district map thereon.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading and passage of bill number 58-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Miller, seconded by Alderman Dyer, I believe. Is that what you had, Melody?
Yes. An ordinance authorizing the rezoning of approximately 33.21 acres located at the intersection of Pinckney Drive and Warrior Avenue from AG agricultural to R2 medium density single family residential and amending the zoning district map thereon.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Voice has changed.
was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer.
Yes.
Bill passes 6-0. I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 59-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Dyer.
An ordinance accepting the estates at Pinckney Ridge by the city of Warrenton, Missouri.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading and passage of bill number 59-2020.
So moved.
So moved.
How about we take Alderman Miller and seconded by Alderman Crump?
Crump.
Sound good?
Yep. An ordinance accepting the estates at Pinckney Ridge by the city of Warrenton, Missouri.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock.
Yes.
Bill passes 6-0. For bill number 60-2020, that was unanimously decided at a 6-0 vote that will be pulled due to language and verbiage and reviewed by council. We are moving on to bill number 61-2020. I will entertain a motion for the first reading and bill number 61-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Dyer.
An ordinance amending section 405.310 zoning officer of the municipal code.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading and passage of bill number 61-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Schultz.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Dyer.
An ordinance amending section 405.310 zoning officer of the municipal code.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller.
Yes.
Bill passes 6-0. I will entertain a motion for first reading of bill number 62-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Dyer, seconded by Alderman Schultz.
An ordinance amending section 401.190 maintenance and supervision of the municipal code.
I will entertain a motion for the second reading and passage of bill number 62-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Miller, seconded by Alderman Deloy.
An ordinance amending section 410.190 maintenance and supervision of the municipal code.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy.
Yes.
Bill passes 6-0. I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 63-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman, who do you have on the second one?
Dyer.
Dyer. Okay.
An ordinance amending section 405.390 subsection B and subsection F of the municipal code of the city of Warrenton, Missouri regarding administrative site plan approval and period of validity.
Validity.
Whatever. Validity for a site plan process.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading and passage of bill number 63-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Miller, seconded by Alderman Dyer.
An ordinance amending section 405.390 subsection B and subsection F of the municipal code of the city of Warrenton, Missouri regarding administrative site plan approval and period of validity for site plan process.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 64-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, second by Alderman Dyer.
An ordinance to authorize the mayor to sign the supplemental agreement number 2 for consultant services between Crawford Murphy and Tilly Incorporated and the city of Warrenton for the 2018 North Route 47 sidewalk project.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading and passage of bill number 64-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Miller, seconded by Alderman Dyer.
An ordinance to authorize the mayor to sign the supplemental agreement number 2 for consultant services between Crawford Murphy and Tilly Incorporated and the city of Warrenton for the 2018 North Route 47 sidewalk project.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump.
Yes.
Motion, or the bill passes 6-0. I'll entertain a motion for first reading of bill number 65-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Dyer.
An ordinance amending table 3-A titled Prohibited Parking in accordance with Schedule 3 of the Municipal Code of the City of Warrenton, Missouri relating to prohibited parking.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading and passage of bill number 65-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Dyer.
An ordinance amending table 3-A titled Prohibited Parking in accordance with Schedule 3 of the Municipal Code of the City of Warrenton, Missouri relating to prohibited parking.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer.
Yes.
Bill passes 6-0. I will entertain a motion to close the regular Board of Alderman meeting.
Mayor, before we close the meeting, I'd like to just ask the question, since we talked about having a special meeting to discuss strategy for COVID. Do we want to go ahead and try to schedule that perhaps for Monday of next week before the holidays, so that we have a few days to put out some notice to the public before the holiday week so that we can get as much participation as possible?
Oh, you're wanting to conduct a meeting right before the holidays? Because I think that if there is no restrictions on traveling or anything else, we may not have a lot of people that will be in town or around. It's I guess I'm thinking after holiday may be the most prohibitive one, and we'll have all the information from the governor as well.
Terry, are you talking about this Monday, the 23rd?
Yes.
Or this Monday? Okay, well,
Right.
it would be just a short Zoom meeting or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all that it requires. Certainly we can do that however you all choose, but we will have the governor's information on Friday. So
Good idea.
I mean,
either we have to do it the first of next week or we have to wait until after the holiday. I would think anything we would do would not be effective until after the holiday. But the longer we wait to have the meeting and for you all to have your discussion, the longer it's going to take to get something out there.
and I understand that. I just think Alderman Ock, did I not take you right as wanting to be able to have as much public input as we can on some of this?
Yeah, I would like to. I mean, I'm not sure how pre-holiday or post-holiday is going to play into it, because I think if you listen to stuff, most people are going to sit here anyway. They're not going to go anywhere, because that seems to be the advice. If you listen to experts in the area, just stay home and enjoy your family. So I don't know, if it would have much of an impact either way on the meeting. I mean, I would think sooner than later, if there is an issue we have to deal with, but that's just me. I'll go with the majority.
I think this coming Monday would be reasonable.
I would agree.
I'm available. Yep. Monday's fine.
Alderman Crump?
I'm available.
Well, it sounds like you have your majority.
Okay, so Monday at 5:30, does that work for everyone, just for a Zoom call? And my thing is, if go ahead, Mayor.
Let's do it at 6.
6 p.m. If we know what that is, and if some of you get contact, you can then let those individuals know that there's going to be a meeting, a Zoom meeting on Monday. We also will put out a notice on Facebook to get it out to as many people as possible that there's going to be a discussion with the Board of Aldermen by Zoom, and the information to be able to get on that call. And Brandy, do you think it's possible we could get some yard signs that we could put out over the weekend?
We can definitely try. I can see how quick they can turn them around.
I mean, something very simple and basic, but with the message that there's going to be a discussion on COVID. We can talk about what it says, but if we can get those, they really seem to help when we're doing something like this to get the word out.
So I'm also would like to get the Board of Aldermen input on this. I get it that we're discussing this as a workshop or what be it for us. But I would like to also let Commissioner Gildahouse know about it as well. Because he seems to be very inputted and asking questions on a regular basis of if we're hearing things or what be it. So I'd like to invite him to be at least listen in on the discussion.
Good idea.
I think it would be nice to have Ruth Walters on here too from the County Health Department.
I'll make the offer to all county employee. I mean, over at the Commissioner Gildahouse spread it to those employees.
Yeah,
I think that's a good deal. Good idea. Because I think we want as much input as we can get. We appreciate the support that the county is doing and just need to make a decision. So it would be helpful to have anybody who could attend from the county be a part of the meeting.
I'll make that phone call tonight or tomorrow.
Two entities.
Do we need to invite any area physicians to this call?
We could. That's not a problem. I mean, Terry, is there any way we could input that or have someone put out something to local physicians as well?
Sure, we can send an invitation to them, tell them that we're going to be discussing this, and invite them to join and share their insight.
Well, I think having an opinion from the medical community would be nice.
Sure. Do you have any indication, Mayor, if the county's considering doing anything?
They are. I mean, once again, I think they'll want to have a discussion with local officials as to where they're seeing their cities or I mean, it's always effective and it always gets brought up that we talked about businesses and how they're going to be affected in the area, and inadvertently, usually there's somebody who says, "How are you putting dollar signs on lives?" But I mean, it's all tied together and we have to discuss it. So I think it's great when they do it. But yes, I believe they are planning on having a discussion with local officials.
Okay. All right, we will get started on that to try to get it out as quickly as possible so that as many people as can be notified. Well, and Mayor, you're going to take care of Gildahouse and the county people, and we'll get something out to local physicians and medical people.
Excellent.
Hey, will that be able to get in the paper this week?
I don't think so, because the paper.
No way.
No.
Okay. Okay.
No.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it'll be too late for that. But we'll get it on Facebook and we'll get it out on yard stake signs if we can get those.
Okay.
Let's correct that 1 sec. It won't be able to get out in the physical paper, but I believe they could actually add it to the electronic section because they can usually do that on a daily basis. So if that's what you're asking, Cheryl, we may be able to talk to them about doing it on the electronic.
Yeah. Because some people get those news alerts from the Record.
Okay.
On their phones and electronic devices. Is that what you're talking about, Cheryl?
Yeah, yeah,
Adam with the Record is here and he said that he should be able to get something online.
good.
Here's,
We will send that to him as soon as we get whatever we're putting on Facebook put together.
Okay, great.
any other
Okay.
questions, or comments?
Yeah,
I'll
I
get-
thought, I don't
Go
think the meeting would be complete unless we pass some kind of motion or something on the commenting on the city attorney's new beard or mustache. I think that would be an appropriate gesture. I don't know. I've been sitting here thinking Freddie Mercury myself, but
I know, I have to give Judge McDonough credit. He got me good. He's feeling much better.
motion for adjournment.
So
I'll
moved.
second.
Motion made by Alderman Hawk, seconded by, who'd you have? Melody?
Alderman Dyer.
Dyer, okay.
Jack
All those,
will never win at Jeopardy. He is way too late on buzzing in.
I think he's got a momentary pause.
Yeah, he'll never make it on Jeopardy.
He's have needed this new telecommunications stuff.
Yeah, I would like to invite Alderman Crump over for faster internet if he needs it.
I'm ready for the fiber.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people, there's a lot of parents that are ready for that. They're struggling with homeschooling.
So all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Yes.
I think he did that on purpose.
So adjourned. Thank you.
Stay
Everybody be
well.
careful.